On the afternoon of November 14, 2004, U.S. Navy Commander David Fravor and his FA-18 squadron were undergoing a training exercise with the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group about 100 miles off the coast of San Diego, California, when his radar detected an anomaly. Fravor looked down from his fighter jet and noticed something white and oblong right above the white water. He saw an object on screen, observed in both infrared and visible light, that was about 45 feet long without wings or other protrusions. It seemed to be eerily moving along with the plane, leaving no exhaust behind. But when Fravor made an attempt to intercept the strange craft, it took off at warp speed. It accelerated so fast that the sensor was unable to keep tracking it. What is now known as the infamous Tic Tac sighting remained classified for over a decade. And then, when a bootleg video of his UAP surfaced on the internet several years after the encounter, it went mostly unnoticed, and so did the rumors of a possible alien spacecraft. That is, until Fravor's account of it exploded onto the front page of the New York Times in 2017. The Tic Tac incident would spark the creation of the Department of Defense's UAP task force. Thus began the first, or perhaps the most famous anyway, account of a USO, an unidentified submerged object, an object that's apparently as capable of traveling through the medium of water as it is traveling through the air, without any impact on its performance or velocity. And although Fravor, now retired, has done little more than relate his account and experiences to anybody who would like to hear it, there is an even higher ranking retired U.S. Navy officer who has done his best to investigate and shed light onto this strange phenomenon and its potential danger to the U.S. military and to the U.S. civilian populace, and he recently gave an exclusive interview this year, which I have just gotten access to. He's a retired Rear Admiral. He was the chief meteorologist of the Navy, and his conclusions about USOs are far more radical and far more disconcerting than any claims that his colleague may have made in front of Congress or anywhere else. All of this and more coming at you on The Angry Astronaut right now. Good afternoon, alien enthusiasts, and welcome to another episode of Alien Week. We are closing in on the end of Alien Week, actually. It will be ending this weekend, and yesterday had a bit of a departure from that topic, talking instead about the moon landing being a fraud, faked, whatever. And yes, I do admit that that is a departure from an Alien Week type of topic, and so that being the case, I will keep another episode in reserve for you folks and add it on to the following week in the course of normal video releases. Although keep in mind that we have a spaceflight week coming up immediately after the Alien Week, because in terms of the merch sales, well, the spaceflight folks came in second, although the alien aficionados by far came in first in terms of purchasing UFO-related merchandise, or just merchandise in general for the channel. Once again, thanks to all of you. It made a big impact on this channel at a time when Google is really cutting funding to creators like myself, making life very difficult indeed. Okay, enough talk about that. Let's talk about USOs. Underwater UFOs is the best way to describe that, I think. And I've talked about those a couple of times on this channel, but never in the greatest detail in terms of the scope of the sightings regarding USOs, and also what other types of mediums have these objects been spotted in. And by that, I'm saying they operate freely between the ocean and the air, don't seem to have any problems operating between these two mediums, and do not even seem to be significantly impacted by them. And there is a retired U.S. Navy Admiral, an admiral who has come out and has revealed a tremendous amount of information about the Navy's experiences with USOs. And he relayed these experiences to popular mechanics in an exclusive interview with them. And it was a while ago that this interview took place, but it was behind a paywall. So a lot of you may not have seen it. Actually, I didn't see it either because I wasn't about to pay for a popular mechanics paywall. I generally will only pay for a paywall if it's for a fellow creator, a YouTube creator, something along those lines. But fortunately, there was one legend on Reddit who decided to reproduce the entire article. And I'm not talking about taking screenshots. He just copied the text word for word and put it into a multiple postings on Reddit. Really fantastic. So I've got all the details for you. And let me tell you, this is truly quite a breakthrough in terms of the testimony of a very, very credible witness. So without further ado, let's hear this man's story. Let's get all the details on all of this and just see how deep this conspiracy actually goes. Fravor eventually testified at a hearing of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee Subcommittee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs in 2023. The public's reaction? The internet shrugged, as Forbes remarked. At that same hearing was retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, former chief meteorologist of the Navy. He would eventually give a testimony of his own about another UAP video taken when he was an active duty officer at a later congressional hearing. Gallaudet had been investigating these phenomena for most of his career, both in and out of the military. Strange objects that have appeared either underwater or were transmedium, transitioning instantaneously from water to air or vice versa, have gone largely unexplained, if not completely denied. The possibilities of what they might be stretch far beyond human understanding. Could they be underwater UAPs, otherwise known as underwater submerged objects or USOs? Quote, "We are pretty convinced that these craft are operated by higher order intelligence that is not human," Gallaudet says. "I don't believe they're of the natural world as we know it. They may come from Earth, but I don't believe they belong to the plant and animal kingdoms as we know them." Gallaudet's testimony spoke to the 2015 Go Fast video captured by the infrared sensor on a Navy F-18 aircraft during an exercise on the East Coast. In this video, as you can see, an object that appears as hardly more than a white dash zooms across the screen. Gallaudet first became aware of the object when the footage was sent to all subordinate commanders in an email titled, quote, "Urgent Safety of Flight Issue," unquote, expressing concern about mysterious mid-air collisions that were happening at the time of the sighting, the speed of the object in the water, and whatever could be discerned about its structure appeared to defy the laws of physics. However, I do need to point out something as an aside here. First of all, it's important to note that this video is not the Tic Tac video. Oftentimes, this video is included with the Tic Tac footage as if it were part of the same encounter. It is not. This thing happened over a decade after the Tic Tac encounter. However, Arrow recently released a report about this encounter, and they claim that the pilots completely miscalculated the vehicle's reported speed. According to them, after accounting for wind speeds and the velocity of the F-18 aircraft, the vehicle that was spotted, or object, whatever you want to call it, was not traveling at anomalous speeds at all, but rather speeds varying anywhere between 5 and 92 miles per hour when the wind has been accounted for, meaning that the fastest it went was 92 miles per hour plus the wind speed at approximately 13,000 foot altitude. In other words, not close to the waves as was reported either. Personally, I find it difficult to believe that trained US Navy pilots could have misapproximated speed, altitude, and everything else about this object that radically, but nevertheless, that's what Arrow is reporting right now with high confidence, even though they can't identify the object with any confidence. It can't be a balloon. Balloons don't move 92 miles an hour faster than the wind, and also they don't deviate as much as 32 degrees from wind direction, which this object did, but still, it did not demonstrate any sort of anomalous speeds according to Arrow. Let's continue with Gallaudet's testimony. Quote, "So far, we have not built anything that can go that fast in the water and does not change speed from water to air," Gallaudet says. "Many have had super fast acceleration and made right-angle turns. We have not been able to engineer vehicles that can do that either." Now, initially, when US Navy officers tried to make sense of what was going on, classified technology demonstrations, which have explained many past aerial UAVs, were initially suspected to be the cause of these incidents. Gallaudet was doubtful about this because of the strict policy the Department of Defense has in place about keeping such demonstrations separate from live exercises. But of course, not everybody at the military is convinced. In a hearing shortly after the one Gallaudet testified in, the director of the Pentagon's UAP office, John Kozlowski, the head of Arrow, stated that no extraterrestrial technology or activity could be verified. What another species might be trying to achieve with these objects remains a question. "We don't know their intent," Gallaudet says. "At least the government is not telling us whether they could be hostile or not, but the uncertainty there needs to be resolved. Not knowing is a potential security risk. What sort of beings could have invented something so advanced? Gallaudet thinks they could be extraterrestrials that found a home in the oceans of Earth, or an undiscovered intelligent species that might have been around for millennia." So some of you may already be asking yourselves, is this man really credible? I mean, just because he's an admiral, does that make him beyond reproach? Well, of course, not necessarily. Everybody is theoretically subject to psychological imbalances, something along those lines, things that could be impacting his recollection of events or his concept of reality, his understanding of reality. I've certainly seen bipolar conditions before. I've seen them manifest in people who are very close to me, and I can see the enormous impact that this can have on somebody's grasp of reality. But that being the case, I really think that if we were dealing with somebody who is suffering from those sorts of issues, his colleagues would know about it. We'd be hearing about this guy from other sources that would be saying that, you know what, if this guy tells you that the sky is blue, you might want to go outside and make sure. But we're not getting any of that. Instead, we're getting confirmation from his colleagues in the Navy, mostly retired, of course, but some active duty as well, that this man is very reliable indeed. And so if he's just making all of this up, this is some sort of fraudulent thing to try to gain some public attention, what motivation does a retired admiral have to make these sorts of claims? It's a little difficult to comprehend. A retired admiral pulls extremely good pay, a really good pension with many, many good benefits in association with that. And I think he would get into a great deal of trouble with the military if he were spouting nonstop distortions and falsehoods about the U.S. Navy and their experience with USOs. And this kind of behavior would have significant ramifications on not only his pension, his VA benefits, so many things that I'm sure are very important to him. So I think that he is about as credible as any witness can get, but there's still a little bit more of this story to be told. So contrary to what I said at the beginning of this video, the Tic Tac was not the first possibly extraterrestrial undersea object witnessed by humans. In his book, Sweep Clear 5, UAP investigator Chris Stiles details a 1960 sighting of a transmedium craft that plunged into the water during a Canadian NATO minesweeping mission. When divers went to retrieve it for further examination, they saw that there was more than one craft on the seafloor and that they were occupied by humanoid entities that were definitely not human. Quote, "They ordered us to the surface and ordered us to forget about what we'd seen," reads one diver account Stiles had documented. "Then the alarm sounded upon the command ship and panic broke out." If there is an intelligent species thriving underwater and building vehicles so advanced that even science fiction cannot fathom them, we might be able to learn something if we can communicate with them. Gallaudet thinks that their sourcing of energy and power might be able to inform us how to solve major energy issues. Alternative forms of energy and advances in materials science could drastically change the outlook of a world that has had its skies polluted, its resources exploited, and struggles to break off dependence on fossil fuel. Unless we make contact, we cannot know who or what is able to engineer something that accelerates instantly and keeps going with unimpeded velocity. We also have no idea what other breakthroughs these intelligent non-human species might have made. As appealing as the idea of intercepting knowledge light years ahead of our time may be, whether these beings would be receptive or hostile is something we must consider before trying to make contact. Quote, "We are certain, based on the people I know who have collected materials and been involved in secret government programs, that they are controlled by something," Gallaudet says. "We just don't know what their intent or their nature is." Non-human technology. I mean, he said it more than once in the course of this interview. Very difficult to look upon this phenomena as being anything else but the product of some other type of civilization, something not human, whether that be a civilization that's been lurking at the bottom of the ocean for many millennia, or what is, in my opinion, a more likely alternative, that we have an extraterrestrial civilization that has been showing increased amounts of interest in our civilization as we've continued to develop and as we have continued to strike out into the solar system, with probes that have now left the solar system behind, robots that roam around on the surface of other planets throughout our solar system, and not only that, of course, the active and capable use of nuclear weapons. All of these things, in my opinion, would be extremely interesting to an extraterrestrial civilization, and given the fact that we have explored a smaller percentage of the ocean floors as opposed to the surface of the moon, where better to hide from human technology but there? Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, you'll notice I'm in a different place right now. This is my best friend's home in Colorado Springs. This is all of his military memorabilia behind me. Sadly, he passed away a decade ago, but his wife is now my best friend. We've developed a fantastic friendship over the years, and she puts me up here on occasion when I visit Colorado. And so this is where I'm going to be broadcasting from for a while. Also, please don't forget to check the description for ways to support this channel, especially right now. Google has slashed advertising revenues even further, probably in reaction to the things that are going on with the economy and the stock market. But in any event, if you're in a position to do that, once again, all the details in the description. Thanks again for watching, and as always, stay angry about space.